near corner. Joshua walks the line, shoots, and scores! Jagger Joshua.
There's the shot from Dorwart. Rebounds right there by Jagger Joshua. And Michigan State has their first goal of the weekend.
Jagger Joshua with his 5th of the season.
Jagger Joshua, his 2nd of the night.
Jagger Joshua sneaks one inside of the crease. And Michigan State's drawn first blood.
Oh, welcome back to Spiro Avenue. And I got to tell you, there was no shortage of Jagger Joshua clips to pull from. Ben was really calling. It could have been a 17-and-a-half-minute intro with the year this guy's having, the year Michigan State's having. A lot going on. I'm thrilled to have him. One of the most high-demand people right now in the Michigan State atmosphere, both with the hockey program and obviously the story that was the backdrop for a negative outcome in November. I'm thrilled to have you, man. Jagger Joshua, welcome.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm honored to be here and excited to get to talk to you for a little bit here. So
yeah, not too long, because I know you threw the pads off to come here. So you went right from practice, maybe did like a little axe spray and then showed up.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you rushing over and being here. So before we get into obviously the big story from November, I got to say, this season from a pure hockey perspective, like, thank God, because I graduated in 11. It was already going 2011, not 1911. It was already going downhill, like, as a program when I was there, a few years off the national championship in 07. And it's been like that for a long time. And I'm a big, thanks, Ben, I appreciate the enthusiasm. But it's been a long haul to get back to a point where, like, I feel like, all right, our hockey team's good. And I'm a big hockey fan generally, big Michigan State hockey fan. So just thank you for helping bring back Michigan State hockey, first of all.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when I committed here and obviously growing up in Michigan, I know about the history of Michigan State hockey, and one of the things I wanted to do was bring that culture back in those winning ways. So it's definitely nice to finally get to achieve some of those accomplishments. And I mean, we're only halfway done here, and I know we got still a lot more to prove. And nobody really remembers the first half of the season, but no, yeah, it's definitely uphill here, and I don't think anybody really expected this fast of a turnaround. And I'm just excited for the future, and not only this year, but for years to come, for sure.
I mean, maybe most people don't remember the first half of the season. I've been waiting for this type of a first half of the season for like 15 years almost. So I will, no matter what happens, cherish, these first, 6-7 weeks, wherever we're at now. It's been a lot of fun just having Michigan State hockey back. It's a proud program. It's a program with championships and a full trophy case over the years, and churned guys into the NHL, and it's just a great history. And it's good to have you guys back. Like, we missed you in sort of the Spartan Nation hockeydom, fan corner, which is, it's obviously not as big as football or basketball, but there's a healthy fan base, as I'm sure you're probably realizing at MUN. I mean, some of the clips, like, it's kind of crazy there.
No, yeah, especially even this past weekend. I mean, obviously the results weren't what we wanted, but versus a top 10 team like that, or top 5 team, and the building was rowdy for us and full. And I mean, it's always nice, obviously, coming out and when you step on the ice for the first time and you see that many fans there, it definitely gives you a little extra motivation.
It's such a nice new arena now. I mean, it's the old but the new. Like, someone said it's the opposite of lipstick on a pig. Was basically like it was a renovation of an existing structure, but it was more than just kind of the lipstick on a pig. They really made that place nicer. MUN's pretty nice now. You've seen kind of the before and after.
Yeah,
right?
I know. I mean, since I committed, they tell the recruits that they were working on it, and to see it finally done is exciting. And no, I do like especially like the old Dem Hall score clock in the middle, and it kind of does keep it old, but there is some new stuff. And obviously, I mean, downstairs in our facility is top notch, and something that, I mean, we're all thankful for and get to abuse every day, or not abuse it, but get to use it. But I definitely, I mean, I definitely maybe abuse the hot tub a little bit, but no, yeah, I mean, it's great. And I mean, when you're visiting here, as a recruit, I don't know why you wouldn't want to be at that rink every day.
Yeah, I mean, and plus now you have some on-ice results to sell, and hopefully that continues to grow. But it's just the transformation of the program seemingly overnight just is astounding as someone watching from afar. I want to get into the resurrection of this once great, now great again program a little bit more detail later. I do want to talk about, obviously, the big story that happened a few weeks ago now, or about a month ago now, in your game against Ohio State. Now, we wrestled back and forth. Do I want to go through the whole blow by blow? I'd rather just play a little mashup we did, some of the clips of the news surrounding it. Okay. For the few people that don't already know what's going on, which is a very small group in this audience, believe me. But let's have Ben roll that just to paint the picture of what happened about a month ago against Ohio State.
The Big Ten Conference has opted not to impose any further discipline upon an Ohio State hockey player who was given a game misconduct against Michigan State for what Spartan forward Jagger Joshua claims was the repeated use of a racial slur.
It prompted Joshua to speak out, not only for himself, but others in the sport who have experienced something similar.
Joshua took his frustrations to Twitter, writing the following, which in part reads, quote, "Acts of racism do not belong in hockey as they can discourage African Americans and any minorities like myself from playing and enjoying the game."
The conference released a statement Monday saying it had collected and evaluated information from the officials, teams, and video footage, ultimately deciding, quote, "Due to the absence of indisputable evidence presented to the conference has not imposed further disciplinary action," end quote.
11 days after the incident, Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith released a statement apologizing to Jagger and saying that Camille Sadlocha has been suspended indefinitely.
Okay, so the crux of the story, I think most people that can scan the headline know, is that there's multiple statements, obviously objectively inappropriate, grossly inappropriate, made during this contest with Ohio State. I haven't heard, and I searched for it, sort of a more thorough breakdown from you of what was the buildup? Was it a chippy game? Like what happened? Can you just kind of go through how, in whatever detail you can, what happened, how it got there, what was said, how many times it was said, just what happened that night?
Yeah, so I mean, it's always a chippy Big Ten game, and obviously with my relationship to Ohio State with my older brother, and that individual knows who I am and knows my brother, and so I wouldn't say it was more chippy than anything else, but it was the second night, so obviously there's some emotions coming out, and so during the first period, I don't really like repeating what he said. I just
no, you don't have to, but yeah,
inappropriate for me.
It's a racial slur.
Yeah, and so something that I heard out of my ear, and I kind of didn't really pay it no mind. I didn't stuff like that. I know his objective was to get under my skin, and I know I didn't really want to let him. So yeah, then the first period and then the second period happened, and multiple times again he just followed me around after the whistle. And that's when one of the refs heard, and the refs huddled up and the one referee reported to the other and decided to kick him out of the game. And so then after the game, nothing really came about it. I mean, my coaching staff, my teammates obviously knew what had happened, and I was super appreciative of how they handled it and supporting me. And then the following day, I got a call from somebody from Michigan State just saying that to send in a statement to the conference about what happened. So of course I sent in a statement, and then pretty much silence for the following week until about Friday when I saw that he was still playing, and that's when I woke up and I was talking to my roommate, Nico Miller, who I honestly am so thankful for, because he's one of the guys that was in my corner and was like, you got to speak up, you got to say something. And so, yeah, I mean, he saw how that made me feel, that this kid ultimately got no punishment for what he said and what he, so basically that's when I talked to Nighty, and I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I knew what me going public means and what it says towards, obviously that we play in the Big Ten. I don't know that you probably shouldn't call out the Big Ten type of thing. And I was extremely nervous going to talk to him. And that's something I'll forever be thankful for, how compassionate and empathetic he was with me, and fully supportive of me. Going public wasn't my first initial option. We called the AD, we called everybody, still making sure that this is correct. If maybe we didn't want to jump the gun, obviously, and so basically, yeah, that's when I found out the Big Ten came to the decision that there basically wasn't enough evidence to punish the player, and so that's when I felt like I needed to say something, and I didn't just want this to be something that just gets ran over. And And I think that happens way too much. And after I came out publicly and the stories I've heard and like people messaging me of stuff that they went through and how people didn't believe them and how nobody was there to support them, it only made me more reassuring that coming public was the right thing to do. And I almost realized that my voice gave other people's voice in a way. And so that's something that like I'm forever grateful for. And I don't like words. I really can't explain it. I don't know.
The feedback, the outpouring really has been tremendous. Like just in terms of support for you, really nationally, so sort of on a global level. It's really extended beyond Michigan State, but certainly within the Michigan State family. I think the way you handled it was uniquely honorable because you had every right under the sun to go right to Twitter and be like, "Hey, F this guy! Like, here's exactly what happened." And I mean, for lack of a better term, you use the proper channels. Like you kind of quietly, you talk to your team and did a statement. Like you're not trying to out somebody, humiliate somebody, even someone that may frankly deserve that outing. And to this day, even after you went public, your statement says an Ohio State player. Like I have never heard you say this guy's name. We used it in the clip. I'll say it. I want to get into it a little bit later, but the way you've handled it. You were in this occurrence the victim, obviously, and you've handled it with so much class. It blows my mind, especially for anybody but someone of your age. It's really impressive.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, my number one objective since coming public was never concerned about the individual. Obviously, a punishment would have been nice, but it's more I want to inspire change, and I want this to become a light and show progress, and it's more about everybody else than if that makes sense. And so I don't want to even I don't want to say I don't care, but I generally don't care about this individual, and I try to make this into a positive and show people that this does happen and it doesn't belong. And I know I'm not the only one, and like I said earlier, like not everybody that's gone through something that I have has a voice and has a platform. So I definitely felt the urge to speak up and say what was right.
Obviously, there's no context at all that anyone could come up with where, and again, I don't know exactly what he said, but any type of racial slur is appropriate. That's a given. I do think there are degrees of bad, and this one was an especially bad degree because if you're cross-checking some guy in the throat and some latent evil racism bug that's in his head from 20 years ago comes out, deplorable, I'd suspend him, call him out. I'm not defending it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was used like deliberately as a way to goad you, presumably because you're a chippy player yourself, you're a tough guy, your penalty minutes are, reflect your style.
Yeah, for sure.
The fact that it was used so strategically, not even heat of the moment. I mean, it's heat of the moment in competition, but it seems like that was a deliberate effort to get you in the box so they can get a power play. I mean, is that not a fair?
No, yeah. I mean, I think obviously with him saying that, it was he was trying to use that towards an advantage for himself, I guess, or his team. And I guess it doesn't make it any better that he did, but I mean, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it wasn't like it was just like him getting mad and him saying it. Like he knew what he was doing somewhat, and he did it multiple times. So that only justifies, I guess, his objective. But
multiple times, and it was just premeditated. It was calculated.
No, yeah.
To me, that does make it a lot worse than heat of the moment, deplorable still, but a little bit less so in my opinion. And the thing that's weird to me is I knew the Ohio State connection, obviously, with your brother, having been a Buckeye and a very good player at Ohio State. But I did not know that you had some level of a relationship with this player prior to this incident.
No, I haven't. He redshirted a year with my brother his senior year.
Okay.
So,
but he knows your brother and knows who you are.
Yeah, and I mean, we've played each other before, obviously, for the past 4 years, along with playing juniors against each other. So it wasn't the first time that we ran into each other.
Have you heard from him at all since?
No, I haven't. Nobody from the school besides the public apology has reached out towards me.
It's interesting because, I mean, not that you should really need the cautionary tale, but was it Mitchell Miller, the guy the Bruins just had to release, that prospect that was a Phoenix had him and then they got rid of him. And it's like we just saw what happens when you screw up and don't reach out to make it right in this sport like 5 minutes ago. Like I'm honestly, are you a little bit surprised that you haven't heard from him?
Yeah, I mean, I think just I'm all for people making mistakes, and I mean, trust me, I'm not perfect either, and I know there are mistakes we made, and I'm forgiving, and an apology would have made all this go away, honestly, and none of this would have been a big deal if, say, he apologized right after the game or said sorry, like. So I mean, not that I expect nor need an apology. I definitely do think it would have helped the situation for sure.
Well, even from let's say this kid's the most evil person on earth. I mean, I don't know him, but let's say he is. Even from a pure strategic standpoint, like for self-preservation, he should have apologized. I mean, God forbid you actually mean it.
Yeah.
But to me, it's such like a foolish thing to do. Even if you're a prick, it's just strategically. Like, how do you just let that sit? But he almost did get away with it. The Big Ten comes out and says, oh, there's no indisputable evidence, we're not doing anything. I mean, that was the impetus behind your statement, was the Big Ten's inaction, right? I mean,
that's what pretty much left me speaking out. Is it wasn't necessarily him, it was the inactions by the Big Ten and even Ohio State by not doing anything. And that's what, if I didn't speak out, that would have been the same as them and condoning it almost and not acknowledging what happened. So definitely my feelings were more towards the institution and towards how things were handled more than the individual.
So when you came out with the statement, and Ben, can you we'll jump the gun a little bit. Can you throw up the excerpt from his statement since we're talking about it? We'll drop there you go. Thank you. So this was an excerpt that we chopped up a little bit for brevity, but acts of racism do not belong in hockey, as they can discourage African Americans and minorities like myself from playing and loving the game. Inactions in the face of racist comments and actions allow these behaviors to continue. And this is where you get into what happened. On November 11th, in our game against Ohio State, one of their players called me a racial slur multiple times. One of the officials heard the slur and gave the player a game misconduct penalty. There was an investigation by the Big Ten in the days after the incident, but no further public action has been taken by the Big Ten Conference or Ohio State. And then we can finish here. The inaction has left me feeling confused and pessimistic about the movement of diversity within hockey culture. The ignorance of racism does not belong in our game, and I feel that I need to make people aware that this incident occurred, because without acknowledgement, the problem gets worse. Everything you said in there is true. It's bullshit that there was no response. The lack of response tells you nothing good about the state of the game in terms of this specific issue. And it was really bad on the conference, and to me, in my opinion, a greater extent, Ohio State. Like, police your own self before asking someone else to police you. It was bad. That statement comes out. Did you talk with Michigan State, Alan Haller, your coach, before that you released that, or did you kind of go rogue on that? I know they supported you the whole way.
No, I wrote the statement myself, and I went to Nighty about that, or Coach Nightingale, and like I said, he was extremely supportive of me going public, and he agreed with me the whole way, and that came the same from Alan Haller, and he was fully supportive of me. I had multiple conversations with him, and he felt that was the right thing to do as well, and them two specifically ultimately gave me the confidence to be able to speak out, because obviously those are two of the more powerful people on campus and most influence in my life. And so definitely, obviously, when I knew they were in my corner, it definitely gave me a lot more confidence to come forward for sure.
Yeah, their support was immediate. Ben, can you throw up their statement too? I mean, they did their own, but kind of on the joint graphic, and you have to read it verbatim. But I mean, you can see for the viewing audience, Alan Haller comes out just saying that we stand with Jagger Joshua. We commend him for having the courage to speak up against racial injustice, preaching support for you. Obviously, your coach, Adam Nightingale, same thing. I mean, at Michigan State, we're committed to a safe and welcoming space, and he commends you for the same, just the courage to come out in the same sort of vein that Alan Haller was talking about, and says, in closing, I'm proud to have you on the team, Jagger Joshua on the team. So, I mean, you felt the support right away. It was interesting that Ohio State comes out sort of after the public shaming, for lack of a better term, and then is saying, oh, okay, this is unacceptable. This player is still, Camilo Salocha is still suspended indefinitely, as far as I know. I know he hasn't played yet since the suspension. You're in this period where it's 10, 11 days after, between it happened, you coming forward, and the actual suspension. During that 10 days, I mean, it was reflected a little bit in your statement, but were you feeling pretty disenchanted? Like, how is nothing happening here?
Yeah, I mean, I was obviously a little confused with this problem, and obviously in today's world, it's something that isn't handled lightly, I guess, and with it being not handled at all by anybody, it kind of definitely left me feeling confused and, like I said, pessimistic about how diversity is in hockey currently, and that's something I want to fight for and help and make better. And I think that was the best way, by acknowledging it and speaking about it and not letting it fly under the rug.
It's really incredible that there was any lag at all. I mean, you would think, I'm not getting into the tunnel gate thing, but like Michigan State had like guys suspended and a statement out in like 9 hours after that thing in the Michigan tunnel. Like this dragged on and on and on, and they only did something when they kind of had to. Were you reached out by anyone at Ohio State? I know the statement was there. Did anyone contact you after the fallout personally, or was it just the public statement?
Nah, it was just a public statement.
This is so dumb. I'm sorry, like, come on. How has no one called you from Ohio State? That's insane to me. The player is the worst for not, in my opinion, the worst the one to not contact you. How do they not contact you as an institution, though?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, that's even something that, I mean, I can't control people's reactions, and I can only really control what I can. And I mean, if that's their way to cope with it or handle it, I guess I can't do anything about it. But
you can't control them, but you can control your reaction to that. I think that's bullshit. Like, how do you not contact? Yeah, the public statement thing is great. Like, I think you should have a public disavowing of that kind of thing. So I'm not saying not do that, but you've acknowledged in print, as you know, your AD is at Ohio State, you've acknowledged publicly that there was a wrong here. It's reflected in the suspension. I don't get how you don't call a kid, but whatever. You're classier than me. I'd be throwing shit if it were me or if it were my kid. Your family's a lot more buttoned up than mine, I suppose, in that regard. But so it's interesting following this story, especially with your brother Dakota in the NHL now, and went to Ohio State, as we've touched on. Has that been sort of an extra wrinkle for you in any way? Like that this is you're forced to publicly call out your brother's alma mater, and he was a proud, great player there in his own right. Has that been sort of an awkward sort of wrinkle to this that wouldn't be the case if this were against Boston College or something?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, even I think for him, the situation's a little awkward, and I mean, he fully supports me, obviously, and I mean, he was literally the first person I called after this happened, and he was just as mad as me about the wrongdoing, and him going to Ohio State definitely does make this a little more of a sticky situation, and also him playing for that coach. So it definitely makes it a little awkward for sure. But I guess that's something that we're gonna have to live with and see what happens from here. But I know that he's played phone tag with their coach, and I know their coach has reached out to him, but I'm not sure exactly. I don't know if they've ever came into contact, but yeah, it is a little.
But even that's weird to me. Obviously, he has a relationship with his own coach, and that makes sense. But I still think that should be like kind of step one to like, hey, I want to talk to your brother who was actually involved in this. I can't get over that. This was almost a month ago, and the only acknowledgement of this from the other side, quote unquote, has been just public statements that like I could read. I just can't believe there hasn't been any type of back channel conversation. Like if it were me, if I'm the AD or the coach or whatever, I'd make my player call you, or he's not playing ever again, and then I would call as the coach or the AD. It's just, to me, that's just weird. I don't like that, but I don't. There's no way around the awkwardness with your brother thing, with the school thing. He's kind of roped into this too. I feel bad for him because it's like now he's kind of in the middle. And, his school kind of hurt him, too, by dragging him into it.
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, he obviously feels a little disloyal, and the trustworthiness from the school wasn't there. And, I mean, he's a player of color, too. And so I know for a fact he's experienced same things throughout his hockey career. And he's obviously not happy that it happened in general. And then for it to be his alma mater is probably a little worse for sure. But
were you surprised by the outpouring from Michigan State fans?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, realistically, I didn't I thought it was going to get maybe 50 likes and a couple of retweets. I knew I obviously knew my close friends who I was talking with, and they supported me going public. I knew they were going to retweet it or type of thing, but I mean, I couldn't. It was overwhelming is probably the only word I can come up with, just the support. And like I'm still responding to messages. I'm still getting messages about, like, I just texted this mom, just sent me a sad message about her son going through the same thing all the way in Las Vegas. And when I see stuff like that, like I said, it just reassures me that I did the right thing, and reaching out to somebody like that and letting them know that you're not alone. And it really has been an eye opener for me. And I think I've even matured a little bit since this situation, just because I realized I don't think I had a good grasp of my following or my platform before this. Like, I mean, I didn't think it was going to blow up at all. And after realizing this, I kind of understand now about who I am and how I can help.
I mean, for one, you're a Division I athlete at a major university in a program with national championships in their trophy case. So that alone, you're in a prominent role. But the story, just from a human interest perspective, it's so egregious. When you had your statement out, I hadn't seen it. I can't remember. I was doing something with my kids or whatever. But I come back to my phone, and I had a couple tagged messages, but mostly DMs and texts. It was like 8 or 9 saying, you got to get Jagger Joshua on the show. And I know who you are. I'm a Michigan State hockey fan. But I'm thinking, like, did he score 5 goals? Or like, what? I mean, you did have a hat trick earlier, but it's like, what did you do? I thought it was something performance based, and so I mean that was like in an hour within the statement, maybe an hour and a half, under 2 hours of you releasing that. My phone's blowing up, telling me that I got to invite you in. So it's like that alone. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine if my phone was blowing up. I can't imagine about you. I can't imagine what your phone was doing.
No, yeah. I mean, I was like, messages are missing. I've gotten so many that I think Instagram just started deleting them because I haven't. But I've been trying to reach out to everybody and show my gratitude towards them, and their words really do mean a lot. So it's something that I'm thankful for, and yeah, the support has been just, there's no words that can describe it.
I was blown away on your behalf. It was so great. You don't expect anyone to come in there with a counterpoint. It'd be like, oh, I don't know, that was okay what happened. Like, that would be some real evil shit. But just the volume of support that you got, like, I would have gone over on the over under 50 likes, but even I was saying, like, all right, like, good job, Spartan Nation, really. Yeah. People were rallying all around you. I'm hoping, and maybe this is ambitious, but I'm curious for your take on it. I'm hoping that this is sort of the hockey version of the Me Too movement, with this piggybacking the Mitchell Miller, which you talked about briefly, incident, that comes out where he's bullying someone and using racial slurs when he was 14, 15 and never apologized. I'm hoping that this is a moment that can kind of push this nonsense out of the game, because obviously we're not there yet, because this happened, first of all. Mm-hmm. And it didn't just happen. It had no response until the victim had to come out and publicly shame, which is exactly what happened with the Me Too stuff in Hollywood. It's like these people are telling everybody they know and telling their bosses, telling their directors, and no one's doing anything. And then they just started going on Oprah and telling the story. Yeah. It's like you kind of have to. It's a shame. I'm hoping, though, that you can sort of further like this. I don't know if you'll ever get racism down to zero ever in any lane, but as low as possible. Do you feel like this has a chance to work for good? I know that's what you're hoping for.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, 100%. That was obviously one of the main reasons why I did come public, is because I wanted to hopefully get down to zero. And like you said, it is going to obviously be hard for racism just to disappear overnight. And that's why I think talking about it and acknowledging it is one of the best ways to gain traction and show that it doesn't belong. And that's definitely something that I'm optimistic towards and changing, and hopefully not that this happens again, but that people are more accepted to speak out and not scared necessarily of the repercussions that might follow speaking out. And I think just letting the everyday person know that this stuff does happen. And that's why I don't think a lot of people understood that these type of things are in the sport of hockey and that they happen a little too much for anybody's liking. And so I think just talking about it and letting people realize that there's a problem here and it needs to be fixed is a good way to start it for sure.
I still maintain that the subsequent after the fact inaction is the most egregious part of the story. Like I can get down with one kid being an asshole and needing some serious cultural education and just, isolating that issue. I'm still flabbergasted by what to me is still an ongoing lack of institutional response to it from the Ohio State side and the Big Ten side. But we hit that already. I don't want to beat them too hard. I think we've made the point. It's just egregious. The angle with, because we were researching Camille Sodlocha a little bit, I wanted to know, like, what's this guy's background? I had no idea who he was. I watched Big Ten hockey. I kind of remember the name. Guy's from Poland. This is just like an anecdotal thing. But you could go on his page right now on the Ohio State website, like on the roster. He lists his two favorite movies as 8 Mile, which is a movie about a white guy transcending racial lines in the inner city, and The Shawshank Redemption, which is a movie about a white guy and a black guy becoming best friends in 1947, like 10 years before the Civil Rights Movement. It's just like what's going on with that guy? I'm flabbergasted that someone in 2022 who has those two movies that were like the whole thing is like black and white guys getting along.
Yeah.
And it's just bizarre. This story and the response to it feels like something like from the 80s or something. I thought we were beyond this. Have you had any other experience, even the Diet Coke 10% version of this guy's one remark instead of 5 or whatever?
Definitely like growing up in hockey and there's definitely there's negativity towards African Americans playing or minorities as well, and I've definitely experienced comments and negativity towards me playing on the ice, and same with my brother's really the only other person I can speak of firsthand. But since growing up, I could remember there has always been not issues, but definitely backlash or negativity towards me playing for sure.
Hopefully this is the last time you face anything like this or anybody. It's just such a bummer. In the Big Ten too, which I just care more about than obviously it's bad anywhere, but it just hits a little bit closer to home having it happen to one of our student athletes. I care so much about Michigan State, and it's just like a shitty story. You've really turned it into a positive, which is almost impossible, but I think the way you're handling it is just beyond measure in terms of the class, and you're really, beyond the bigger man in the room and in the situation. And you look at, again, at a conference level, at an institution level, you're talking about people with PhDs in their 70s, and they're getting schooled in how to handle something by, what are you, 22?
Yeah, 23.
23? It's just, I could not commend you more. I was talking with, I hear you, sound the siren. I'm going to get shit for this. Because I name drop, I'm told, my friend Jack. But my best friend, best man at each other's weddings is Jack Johnson, plays for the Blackhawks now, and just won the Cup with Colorado. So I was talking about the situation with him. I told him before we booked it, but I was talking with you. I'm trying to get Jagger on the show, and I got his permission to share his response. We were texting and talking on the phone back and forth. But so this was an excerpt from my buddy Jack's response to your situation with Ohio State. Quote, "That situation disgusts me, frankly. How does that happen? There's no place for it in our game or anywhere. In my entire NHL career, I can't recall a single incident like that. The guys wouldn't tolerate it." That was, and that was excerpted from, again, that was text messages, but we were talking on the phone. It was a long text thread about it. But what he was saying was he's heard, for whatever you want to make of it, more in Canada is what he said, heard stuff in the crowd. Like he's heard people in the crowd. He played with Wayne Simmons, for I think it was 2 or 3 years in LA. He's heard this stuff from people in the crowd. He's never heard a racial slur. Not to say it's ever happened. He's never heard that. And his take was, like, if some guy's, saying the N-word or whatever racial slur, take your pick, the teammates, like the guy's teammates are going to be like, shut the fuck up. They're not going to. That's what he was saying. I'm not an NHL player, but to me, it already is unacceptable. Which just makes the fact that it happened all the more outrageous. Did you see anybody on Ohio State? Did they hear him? Did they tell him knock it off?
No, but speaking of that, it's something that I actually appreciated a lot. Was one of their players did come up to me during the game after that had happened and did say sorry about that, and obviously it didn't belong, and he's ashamed that happened. So he also texted me after, so that was something that meant a lot, obviously coming from him, and I know it was hard because it was obviously his teammate that did it, but there was one Ohio State player that did actually apologize on the ice, and that made me feel a little bit better for sure.
Well, I know you're not going to out him, but maybe after the show you can tell me who that is, because that kid deserves a basket. But that was Jack's whole thing was, yeah, obviously the kid who said the stuff is the real villain in the story. But he was shocked that, he goes, somebody had to have said something. So I can go back and tell him now that somebody did. But he said, if we heard that, he goes, if I'm playing in Chicago, at the United Center tomorrow, and I hear one of my teammates call somebody the N-word, we're all going to be like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
it's going to be, but I don't think that was even the case maybe 20 years ago. I think we have progressed. But that's honestly a great nugget that someone came up to you on. I didn't know. I haven't heard that if you've shared that before.
No, I don't think I have. And that's something that, obviously the way I look at him and has changed greatly, and I'm appreciative that he felt the need to come say sorry, and that was very nice of him.
Props to that kid. Let's get that guy on an NIL deal. I'll support an Ohio State athlete. I'll forgive them for their trespasses at their own stadium against the Michigan football team. How dare they let me down? So, all right, I appreciate going into detail. I know the story kind of sucks. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
But you've been so good about sharing details about it. I know I saw your all access thing with Michigan State. You're doing a great job with everything, and I applaud you because, like you said, that you were in a tough spot. You're calling out your own conference. You're calling out your brother's alma mater by proxy. It's not, guys in the fraternity, from what I'm told, don't really like calling out other players.
Yeah.
So that was hard, but you did the right thing, because if you didn't do it, you even did it and the response sucked. I mean, it's just going to perpetuate forever. So I give you so much credit, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's everyone supporter that reaches out. It really does reassure me. And I've had big, I'll out name drop you here. How about that? Anson Carter, he's been tremendous so far with me, and him have had a couple of chats, and I know he had similar experiences when he played, and that was something that hit the heart for him, hit home, and yeah, he's been great. And I know PK Subban, he reached out to me, and he was nothing but nice, and I know he shared similar experiences, and guys that maybe got away with stuff like that. And yeah, I couldn't, I'm telling you, the support is overwhelming, and it reassuring. It really is. So
it's awesome. You're having a Norris Trophy winner hit you up too. It's pretty cool. Anyone that says black players don't belong in the league, they did not watch Anson Carter growing up, because Anson Carter was my favorite player when I was a kid, because he was there in the mid to late 90s, and I remember watching him. My first game at Munn, he was playing, and he was awesome. He was my favorite player on the team by a mile. So yeah, they don't know. They're ignorant to begin with, but they didn't watch Anson Carter. Man. That guy was the best player on Michigan State back then, and those were some rolling, really good Michigan State teams. So speaking of rolling, really good Michigan State teams, I want to pivot away from all the nonsense from November. I want to talk some Michigan State hockey.
All right.
We touched on it earlier. I'm fucking jacked. You guys have finally given me something to root for, because I always root for Michigan State hockey, but it's been a rough road. I graduated not that recently, and I still haven't seen really. There was one Tom Manassas year where the team was 17-16. So I pulled this up. I did some math crunching. There's no graphic for this one, but this is you're looking. Everyone knows that. But so this is. I'm not a big notes guy. I hate reading off, but this is a stat I got to read off. So your first 3 seasons at Michigan State, the hockey program goes 34-60-5. It's a 36% win percentage. This year so far, which it's still young, 11-6-1, 65%. So again, sample size alert, we get that. But so far this year, you're winning at almost double the clip that you did your prior 3 years. This is, objectively speaking, as we stand right now, the best Michigan State hockey season since the defending champions that fell a little short 07-08. Just in terms of record win percentage, it's the best team objectively in 14 years. Even if you guys kind of play 500 the rest of the way, it's the best team in 14 years. So I'm fascinated by how you guys got here. You are one of those guys that can speak to it, because you've been here longer than anybody during the come up, and now you're here for the ascension with the new coach. Ben, can you roll that clip with some of the highlights of Michigan State hockey this year, and that'll set the table for us.
We want Michigan State to be the top program in college hockey, and we truly believe we can do that. Our only concern is about being better tomorrow than we are today, and then we'll do that again tomorrow, and we'll do it the next day, and I truly believe we keep doing that. Eventually that's going to come to fruition.
Kelly, good opportunity here, out in front, trying to wrap it around and in! Tanner Kelly, his second goal of the weekend, makes it 3-0 MSU in the first period.
It's Joshua on the right wing, drops it back into the shot. Goal! Up to Basgall at the right point. He'll step into the middle, take a shot. Goal! Back out to center ice. Spartans get back on side. Tucker brings it in on the left wing. Tucker. Shot. Goal!
Okay, so this is the revival of a great program, man. I'm pumped. I want your opinion on this as someone that was here for the sort of end of a relatively dark era to now the ascension that we're seeing before our eyes in real time. How did we get here? Like, this seems to be overnight. How are we from where we were last year in the 12 years prior to where we are right now, one of the best teams in the country?
I think the easiest way is to explain is the buy-in, and that's starts with Coach Nightingale and everybody, his whole staff that he brought in, and from our trainer Will Morlock to our two assistants to Michael and Townsy, and adding Fasty back, and everybody's been a tremendous help. And I think it speaks a lot to a team when everybody's bought in, and necessarily we still don't really even have the top toted players in America. There's nobody that's that high of an NHL draft pick or highly like skill wise and on our team. But when everybody buys in and plays a team game, and it can show what you can do on the ice. And I think just even Coach Nightingale with the mentality he's brought to us, and more focusing on ourselves and getting better each day, like you heard. We really just focus on us, and that's all you can control, and getting better each day. And when that 1% adds up, eventually it's going to add up to 100, and that's all we really look forward to. And yeah, I think it comes down to some mentality thing, and something like we're not very goal oriented, or in terms of we're not looking to score 40 shots or have 10 block shots and type of thing. We're just more focused on playing the best brand of hockey we can, and playing winning hockey, and replicating that and repeating that every game. And it's paid off for us so far. And I'm generally ecstatic to keep playing. And I have nothing but good words to say about playing for Coach Nightingale, and in the way he sees the game, and the way he helps us see it. And it's been obviously, as you can see, it's been tremendously helpful for me this year. And I get to play with some highly skilled players, and Dorward and Russell, and they've been nothing but spectacular this year. And yeah, I think it really just comes down to the mindset and the buy-in process.
It's visible. When I was in the Vancouver throes of 2010, we talked about it a little bit before the show, before the cameras were rolling, but for the Olympics, seeing the Team USA and that great run they had, and undefeated until overtime of the final game, the gold medal game. But I got to meet Ryan Kessler, who was one of my favorite players from that era, and just, I think, very recently retired. But I congratulated him. They had just beaten Canada in that preliminary. They had beaten them in Canada. Obviously, it's a huge shock. Mm-hmm. And I just said hey, you're one of my favorite players, man. Great game, just kind of generic stuff. And they had a team get together thing at a bar. They had the whole top floor of this bar in downtown rented out. And he said something that resonated with me ever since. So here we are, going on 15 years later, pushing it. He said, just trying to be tough to play against. Just trying to be, he said thanks and said, I'm just trying to be tough to play against. We're just trying to be tough to play against, because we're talking about all these stars on Canada and how'd you do it, and what a shock. No one saw that coming. We're just trying to be tough to play against. You guys are tough to play against. That's what my takeaway is. You're almost like a vintage Tom Izzo team, where it's just you have a little bit of a fuck you snarl to you, where you mentioned it's not a team loaded with All-Americans and top 10 picks in the draft, but you just watch the game. You guys are in guys' faces. Everything is contested. You're hustling. You back check really hard. It just seems like exactly what you said. The buy-in is that sort of a fair assessment? You guys,
no, yeah,
you have some fuck you to you.
No, yeah, 100%. I think even I mean, obviously, I struggle with the discipline part a little bit, and
you play on the edge. But
yeah,
I gotta play.
And I mean, yeah, it's just from holding people accountable, and that's something that I always liked about that basketball team, and I'll never forget like Aaron Henry just yelling at one of his teammates, or like they always get in each other's face, and that's something I admire. And for somebody to be able to be held accountable like that by another peer, another teammate, it shows you how strong that team is, and you need teams like that go far. And that's something that I think we have here. Everybody hold each other accountable, and I mentioned it to the team the other day, is the freshmen that were brought in, and to me, when I see a kid like Dorwart shooting 300 pucks a day, I'm like, I gotta shoot too, type of thing. And I see our freshmen, when they're the hardest workers and they're bought in, and they're the ones that are changing the culture, and they're the ones that are doing the extra work. And obviously the last couple of years wasn't something that we were doing, and we weren't necessarily acting like we were the best team in the nation. And so that's another big part of Nightingale, and his mantra is we act like we're the best team in the nation. We do stuff different here, and we're different than everybody else. And I know nobody else practices like us, and nobody had the summer like us. And when we're doing stuff like that, it all adds up, and we're getting results on the ice, as you can see, and just looking forward to continuing it.
Why is the buy-in there so much more now with Nightingale versus Danton Cole?
I think, if you ever talk to Coach Nightingale, I think the way he talks, and he's a personal guy, and obviously his reputation speaks to himself. So you obviously trust a guy that's coming from where he has, and yeah, I think just the way, if you just sat down with him and the way he broke down the game, and at least from my standpoint, I'm impressed the way he sees stuff on the ice, and like we'll be watching video, and he'll be like, we always joke around, but he always be like you see the 2-on-1 there, but like really there's nothing there yet, type of thing. Like, but he sees it from 30 seconds ago, type of thing. Like the way he sees a game, and you can tell that he knows what he's talking about, and yeah, you just trust him. And obviously I want to get to the level that he coached, and he knows how to get there. And so you don't have to tell me, you don't have to convince me more really to buy in. And I think that's the same with everybody else, and everybody on our team wants to become the best hockey player they can. And obviously it's not realistic that everybody can go to the NHL or pursue hockey, but if you act like that every day and you show up ready to work, it's only going to benefit the team and yourself in the long run. So
my ears perked up at one thing you said a minute ago, when you said that his mantra is we act like we're the best team in the nation. Is that did I catch that right?
Yeah.
How is that reflected? Is that like a swagger? Is that in terms of preparation? What does that mean really?
Yeah, I think it's all those things. I think for me, I think that's where confidence starts from, is repetition and practice, and that's where you gain your confidence from. And that's something that he just stresses. I know for a fact we're the only team that warms up before practice. Like stuff like that just adds up, and just we're different. Like that's just we do stuff differently. We're attentive when we do stuff, and from there it adds up to winning games and being successful really.
Was there any apprehension, reticence from you being a rising senior, new coach coming in, the guy that recruited you is gone, you've played your whole career, collegiately is gone. Was that nerve-wracking for you at all?
Yeah, I think for everybody, obviously a new coach coming in, and the past 3 years, I like to think I played a good amount, and I was somewhat happy with my playing and my ice time. And so obviously it's a little nerve-wracking, a new coach, a new system, and he is not really familiar with my game. And he comes from USA, and I do think like he comes from USA, is skilled predominantly, his background skill, and I think I have a little skill in my game, but obviously I'm a hard, tough nosed player to play against. So I had second guesses if maybe he respected my playing style, if that makes sense. And so there's those nerves, but I think just talking to him, and from his first Zoom call that we had with him, and showing that he just wants to make everybody as best as they can be. And you really have a conversation with him, and it's not hard to buy into his process. And at the end of the day, I want to become the best hockey player I can. And I really think that him and our coaching staff can help me get there. So it wasn't that hard to buy in after day one. And I'm I just am so thankful for it.
Oh, I'm thankful for him too. Was there a point this year, and if so, what was it, where you realized, oh shit, like this is not my first 3 years. Like we're not in Kansas anymore. We have a good team. Was it before the first game, 10 games in? Was there a point where you realized this is a different Michigan State hockey experience than what I'm used to?
Yeah, no, I think right off the get-go is our first away game at Bowling Green in that hostile environment. And I mean, it's a hard place to play and they get rowdy. And I just remember the whole game. I think it was an even game until the third, and you could tell that they were holding on, and that's something that I talked about with Nico Mueller, who is somebody that's also been through it with through the past 3 years and have seen. And to me, it was like we used to be Bowling Green, like we used to be the team just holding on, like scoring one goal and trying to hold on for the lead, and we were and so for me that was like, oh, like it's different, like we're the other team now. Like we're the team that's pushing the guns here, and we're better trained. I think that right off the get go from the second game in, I knew that it was different here, and it was almost fun. Like it just, it just sucks being on that other side. Like you're just praying. You're almost just, I've been lucky. We've always had good goaltending here, and usually I think a lot of our wins was relying on goaltending late and in our defense, and just being on the other side of that and relentless pressuring, and you could tell that the ice was tipping in our favor was something that, I enjoyed. And I think that, that was definitely the moment I realized that we're not the same old
Pretty
Michigan.
early. The second game. So it is more fun when you're the Rabbit and the Rabbit's got the gun. And that's what this feels like. It feels like the Rabbit's got the gun now, where you guys have been, kind of struggling and hanging. Way before you even got there. It's a program that really was so good for so long, and still has the most recent national championship in the Big Ten from 2007, and just to see that back, whatever happens this year, but just that swagger, that kind of fuck you, because that's what those good Michigan State teams were. Michigan State wasn't the best team in the country the year they won the national title throughout the regular season. They were good, but they weren't the best team. They weren't the top seed. Michigan was expected to be much better and go much farther. Didn't matter because they played with that edge, and it seems like that's sort of coming back a little bit. Does Nightingale talk at all? Like Mel Tucker openly talks about, I'm recruiting a certain type of guy for my football team because I want to get into the college football playoff and have a chance to hold up physically and win a national title. He does not hide from that. He's trying to build towards national titles. Is that something talked about at all in your program with the new regime? Does he talk about, I'm trying to win the conference, win the national championship? Is that something he expresses to you guys?
See, yeah, no, he definitely lets us know that what we're doing here, we're trying to build the best team in the nation and those type of things. But like I said earlier, it really, he's more focused on each day and getting better, and that's all you can really control, and going day by day and improving in those ways. But no, recruiting isn't really openly talked about. I know he recruits smart, fast, and hard players to play against, so that's something that he obviously is looking for. But no, we're just, like I said, we're more just focused on getting better. That's all you can control, and that's something that I think speaks to our improvement. Is like I said earlier, we're not trying to go out there and 4 goals is going to get us done here, or 30 shots we won. It's just really we're focused on, like, and then another thing he always mentions is we don't play at the scoreboard. Like if we're down 5-0, we're still playing as hard as possible. We're still getting better. It's really a whole new feel in the locker room for sure.
And it's so funny you said that, because that was going to be one of the last things I said was, you guys are not in that, the 2-goal lead's the worst lead in hockey cliche. Like, you're the opposite of that, because I've watched you guys a lot this year. You'll be winning a game by 4 goals with like 6 minutes left, and then you end up winning by 5 or 6. Like, you guys just pour it on. There's no like kind of sit back in the neutral zone, even when it's almost mathematically impossible for you guys to lose, or on the flip side, come back and win. There's like no let up with you guys at all. So that's something I can even see sitting on the couch watching it at home. And it just seems like you guys are so much more hard driving than anything we've seen in a long time. And people will roll their eyes if they're not a Michigan State fan or alum or whatever, but that is kind of the Spartan dog Michigan State mentality.
100%, yeah.
That's when the football teams have been great. They've had that edge. The basketball teams, when they've reached their peaks, they've had that edge. You could even argue this basketball team has that edge. You guys have that snarl back. It's great to see. And what a year for you. I'm so glad that you got to be here for it. Because if you were 1 year, behind, you would have missed this renaissance. Not only are you along for the ride, but you're playing on the top line. You're a huge part of this. And I'm just really happy for you, especially, you're such a good guy and such a good ambassador for the school. And honestly, really proud to just have you as a Michigan State Spartan and representing us. Because, you're well deserving of all the praise you've gotten for how you've handled the thing in November. Obviously, your on-ice performance has been fantastic this year, which, maybe a little less important than what kind of a person you are, but I still like both the things. I love that, how well you're playing, and I can't say it enough, man. Just my utmost respect to you and how you've handled everything.
No, yeah, I appreciate those words, and I'm looking to keep proving people right that I am a good guy, and I just want to try to get better in every day. If that means just my life and being a better person or being a better hockey player, either way, it's something that I think everybody should strive for and everybody can do. So yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate those words.
Yeah, I am happy you're a Spartan. So we'll do our quick little speed round, get you out of here. I know you came right from practice, threw the pads off and showed up, as we said. So let's run the speed round, then we'll get you on your way home. This one I ask almost every student athlete because I'm fascinated by this. I really am. The best road atmosphere. What's the most intense road barn to go play in?
Oh, I think the easiest is Yost at Michigan. They get the rowdiest for sure, and obviously when we come into town, it's pretty
especially charged.
Yeah, it's definitely loud, and it's something where I look forward to playing for sure, and definitely winning there is a little bit sweeter for sure.
It's a really cool barn. It's just a cool looking place too. I hate to say anything nice about it.
No, I agree.
It's pretty sweet. All right, I told you I was mixing in a little bit of Dearborn. So you're a Dearborn guy. Best Dearborn eatery. There's a lot of good food in Dearborn, especially if you like Middle Eastern flair, which I do. What's your spot to go if someone's coming to visit you in Dearborn? Hey man, we got to go to this place.
Yeah, and I go to the Miller's Bar on Telegraph. It's got some of the best burgers in town. So
ranked.
Yeah, so usually that's where I'll stop by or bring some guests for sure.
Yeah, that's for those that don't know, that's like a top 5 on any best burger in Michigan list. It's won multiple times on a list, but yeah, great call on that one. All right, briefly on your supposed favorite player, according to your bio. You're a big Wayne Simmons guy. Why are you a Wayne Simmons guy? Why do you like Wayne Simmons?
I think it's easy to say I resonate. Obviously, a player of color is somebody I always looked up to, and then just from his playing style as somebody I try to why can't I say that word?
Replicate.
Replicate.
I thought you were going for rep.
No, replicate.
Yeah.
My bad.
We're talking to an hour with me. Anyone talks to me for an hour, they start saying all sorts of gibberish. Yeah, I kind of wear people down. But yeah, you want to replicate his thing.
No, I think he's somebody that, I can resonate with his playing style, and he plays physical hard, and he might not be scoring all the goals, but when he's on the ice, and yeah, he's just somebody I always more so looked up to him in his prime years. I don't know about nowadays. I know he's kind of on the end of his career here, but definitely had a great career, and somebody that I hope that I can be one day for sure.
He's kind of up and down in Toronto this year. I think he's played like 7 games, but because I looked up his stats when I saw that he was your favorite player, and I was just like, he was pretty good. I forgot how many goals he scored in his prime in Philly. It was like 32, 29, 31, 30 or something.
Yeah,
they
had him net front on that power play. He did wonders. No, yeah, he's a good player, and yeah, like I said, hopefully I can be somewhere like him one day.
I will say he was the best dressed player on the LA Kings when I would go out there and visit. That guy, he had the nicest coats and shit. He blew everyone else away. I used to make fun of Jack. I'd be like, yeah, step your game up. Like, Simmer's just looking dynamite. He had big, beautiful watch. And so his game is awesome. I told you before the show, I love those kind of like fuck you hard ass players. I love Tomas Holmstrom, similar kind of big net presence. And I know you're a Red Wings fan. But yeah, I like Simmer too. That's a good answer. So we'll finish here. East Lansing watch party location. So here's the setup. Big, can't be hockey game because you're playing it.
Yeah.
Big basketball game, big football game. Where are you going if you have to go out? You're not just at someone's apartment.
I think we would go Luha's Or Lou and Harry's, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
people
these are all Michigan State fans.
Yeah.
They know the lingo.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of Luha's, and they treat us well there, and that's somewhere definitely one of the spots that the boys like going to.
Well, thank you for picking one of the places that actually existed when I was there. Because when I went up, I feel like I'm on Mars. I go out, I was the biggest Michigan State passionate alum ever. And I go up there, I feel like I'm at a different campus. Like it's like Hopcat is there now, and it's like there's a brewery up there now other than Harper's, and yeah, it's wild. But yeah, that's a good answer. Luhas, you're going old school. So that's a good answer.
No, yeah, I'll shout out Crunchies too. Crunchies is a lifetime, and
I was just gonna say
that's a good spot too that we like to take advantage of, and maybe even karaoke night some nights if you get lucky. But
I was just your biggest fan, both you individually and the team, Michigan State Hockey generally, is my friend Jeremy. And he and I were just talking about Crunchies yesterday, and it was an awkward moment because I was telling him like, "Oh yeah, Crunchies is the best. The service sucks though. Like you have to wait like an hour to get your food." And then he clarified that he actually worked there. So
makes sense.
I'm like shitting on I'm shitting on my buddy. Like, "Oh yeah, you guys sucked at your job." But Crunchies was my spot. That if someone asked me that question, if anyone, God forbid, ever interviewed me about that, I'd be like Crunchies for sure. And we even talked about the karaoke. It's the worst karaoke on the planet, not because of Crunchies, but because of the talent. At least in my era, nobody could sing. I don't know what was going on in that 4-year stretch. At least the Crunchies patrons could not sing. But great answer. Yeah, Crunchies is my spot. Great job by you. I'm going to let you get out of here. You came all the way here. Long drive, as I know. I've made it many times right from practice. I'm sure you got something going on tomorrow, either on or off the ice. So really appreciate your time and making time for us and what is a crazy time for you, quite frankly. Continued success to you. Again, thank you for being a Spartan, man. You really represent the school so well, and I couldn't think of somebody better to handle the situation than you and how well you've navigated it. And there's people a lot older and with a lot more experience and diplomas on their wall that could learn something from you, frankly. So just hats off to you, man.
Thanks for having me. And obviously this gives my voice even a bigger platform to spread my cause and what I'm fighting for. So I'm appreciative of you having me for sure. And
continued success to you and the Michigan State hockey program. Man, it's good to have you guys back. I missed you. Ben Augusta, great and powerful odds on the other side of the curtain. Appreciate him as always. Eric Williamson in his boxers on his couch watching live. Appreciate you, graphic set designer. This was the Spiro Avenue Show with Jagger Joshua, Michigan State legend now. We'll see you next time.
Coach?